If you would like to support the podcast and get some extra content while you're there, head on over to patreon.com/Severe MMA podcast and sign up. From the rewatch to the Q&A, we will have loads of content every week. So sign up, patreon.com/Severe MMA podcast. And now, here's the podcast. Welcome everybody. It's episode 311 of the Severe MMA podcast. My name is Sean Sheehan, aka the Score Lord, the Pod God, the Legend, joined today by the Rachel Blackmore of Irish MMA Media, Graham McDonald, as we talk about a busy weekend in the world of mixed martial arts, and another busy one coming up next week. So we have loads to talk about today, from one of the greatest Irish MMA victories we've seen ever in the beautiful sport of brawling, which we will get into, a big UFC pay-per-view card next week as well, and some controversy throughout last week's mixed martial arts foray. But before we get into that, we have to tell you about our sponsors, Manscaped. And listen up, fellas, because today we have a new Manscaped product alert. Manscaped just released the Weed Whacker nose and ear hair trimmer. Take a look in the mirror and I guarantee you'll see hair sticking out of those holes. It's time to get your ear and nose hair looking as nice as your clean shaven pubes. I feel weird saying this. Manscaped is trusted by over 2 million men worldwide. Join the movement for all your below the waist grooming. I know myself and you, Graham, we got ours around Christmas time and we've been trimming non-stop since, so we're looking clean now. And Manscaped is forever changing the grooming game with their Weed Whacker. The nose and ear hair trimmer provides a proprietary skin-safe technology that helps reduce nicks, snags and tugs to those delicate holes. The premium Manscaped Weed Whacker uses 9,000 RPM motor-powered 360-degree rotary dual blade system, which is a mouthful. Its intelligently contoured design enhances the trimming experience, and it's waterproof, which makes it easy to operate and to clean. The only nose hair trimmer on the market with a powerful and rechargeable lithium-ion battery that lasts for up to 90 minutes of use. Have you ever pulled those nose hairs out with your finger? That might hurt worse than nicking your balls. Manscaped is making whacking your weeds a time to look forward to and to deliver maximum confidence while providing hygiene as well. Yes, you will get a replaceable blade every 3 months to keep your weed whacking time clean and enjoyable. Look, fellas, 97 or 79% even of partners polled admitted that the long nose hair is a major turnoff. It's time to upgrade your Manscaped routine with the Weed Whacker. So get 20% off and free shipping with the code SEVEREMMA at manscaped.com. Thank you, Manscaped, for keeping our pubes trimmed and hairs in our holes looking nice. So get 20% off and free shipping with the code SEVEREMMA at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code SEVEREMMA at manscaped.com. What are you waiting for? Go whack your weeds. Right, Graham, there's no place else to start this week in an Irish MMA podcast but Peter Queally against Patricio Patricky Pitbull, even. It might be Patricio Pitbull fairly soon after what happened at the weekend. What a performance. Like, we spoke about it last weekend on the podcast, and we knew that Peter Queally would go out and try his damnedest and put on a performance, but I think both of us doubted whether he could win. I did the rewatch, and I think I picked out a few things, which he did, that helped him to win, but I thought it was going to be a big issue. And we can discuss the finish and everything like that, but even before the finish, and if the fight continued and had gone to 3 rounds, I think the way Peter Queally performed, what he did in that fight against that level of opponent, was something that he can be proud of and Irish MMA can be proud of. And it was really one of those moments where someone stands up and really has a great performance. Were you as impressed by it as I was, Graham, on what was it, Friday night?
Yeah, I was very impressed with his performance. Obviously Pitbull is the top Bellator fighter. He's been around. He's fought, who's who in Bellator. He's fought a lot of high-level opponents, and Queally took some big shots, took some big leg kicks in the first round especially, and just kept to his game, kept pushing forward, and made it uncomfortable for Pitbull, and Pitbull started to welt under the pressure, I think, and going for takedowns at the end of rounds, trying to steal the rounds, so to say, what people used to say. And it turned out that that takedown ended up at the end of the round ended up being where Queally finished the fight with those beautiful elbows that people seem to think didn't happen, and he just started bleeding for no
Yeah,
reason.
the end was weird. We'll get to that in a second, but I think we have to appreciate the performance first. I talked to a couple of people, and I talked to people, a couple of English people actually, just to get like a gauge on what they thought of the performance. Because sometimes, okay, we'll admit it, like we might have a bit of a bias towards the Irish guys, and sometimes, and look, we're an Irish MMA podcast, so we have to, especially in our coverage of them, maybe not our analysis of the fights and stuff. And I thought everyone was impressed with it, apart from like the commentary. And we know what happens with commentary. People say something on the commentary, like fucking Gary Neville every weekend in the soccer, and people just buy it and bring it on as kind of their own opinion. But this, I think it was like the first two rounds, I think it was 19-19. I thought Pitbull won the first round. Those leg kicks were just very heavy, and he was landing them very well. I thought the one thing Queally, I think, did very well throughout the whole fight, throughout the two rounds, was make his moments count. You know, when he got in close, or when he got into an area to hurt Pitbull, or to not necessarily hurt him, but just to make it a bit nasty, he did it. Even that time where Pitbull was kind of pushing him against the cage and he slapped him in the face like 10 times in a row. That is the sort of thing you need to do when you're like the underdog coming into a fight you're not supposed to win. You know, that's the sort of thing you need to do. And that's a lot of thing that, you know, fighters don't do a lot of the time. They don't make it nasty for him. Like, they're going in there and they're not, I'm not saying they're going in there to lose, but they're not going in there to win. But Peter Queally absolutely fucking went in there to win. Now, I thought, like, when you fight Patricky straight up, it's a very tough matchup, even when you're kind of a bigger guy like Queally. But I thought his ability to take shots, like he called himself a tough SOB afterwards, and I think that's exactly what it was. When you have that ability to take the shots, you keep coming. Patricky does get a little bit tired, and as you said, Graham, going for takedowns at the end of the round, just trying to secure him, maybe trying to get a little bit of a rest. That kind of, he was hoisted upon his own petard, because Queally was hurt him and you know, cut him up with those elbows at the end of the second round especially. But yeah, I thought, like, it was a good for Patricky. It was a good performance at the start, but I thought when Queally especially changed stances in the middle of the second round and kind of took away the leg kick a little bit, Patricky wasn't throwing his straights as much after that. And I think when Queally cut him as well, with, I think it was a left hook inside, and cut the right eye of Patricky, it would be, he's kind of stopped throwing his shots as much as he was before that, and then he was, as you said, looking for that takedown, and we all know what happened with the takedown in the end. But I thought, like, it was one of those performances from Peter Queally where he had to go through the fire. You know, he had to, and sometimes, you know, he was kind of falling over in shots a little bit, and he was reaching in a little bit, things you probably would say, right, that's not the best idea to be doing, but I think he had to do them just to make the fight nasty. That's what I was talking to the one person specifically, and they said, like, he just made it nasty. And like, Peter Queally's a guy who's gone over to Africa, he's gone over to fucking Russia, he's gone into lads' back doors, and he's fought him and all comers, and you can say what you want about him and everything like that, but he is a fucking gamer, and he is, you know, he's a tough bastard, and he showed that again here at the weekend before we even get to the finish. But what did you think of that finish? So let's get to it, I suppose, here. And what did you think of the commentary around it?
Yeah, well, I think it was lovely from Queally. Like, you know, he got taken down with like, you know, time running out, and he wasn't content to just, you know, hold on and, you know, secure the body so that Pitbull couldn't really posture up and hit him. He was attacking and throwing elbows and trying to hurt Pitbull, and he cut him open, and he was bleeding a lot. And, you know, the corner maybe could have done a better job of trying to stop the bleeding straight away, but they didn't. The doctor came over, saw, you know, blood everywhere, and stopped it. Like, you know, I know all these kind of cut finishes are always controversial. People always think, oh, you can fight on and stuff, and, you know, he probably could have fought on, but, you know, there was a lot of blood there. We've seen it stopped a lot of times, and I think if it was the other way and Queally had got cut with something like that, people wouldn't have been, you know, up in the commentary, and the pundits wouldn't have been so negative and towards it. And obviously, if it's a favorite of Bellator or like Pitbull, I think that kind of added to the fact that the commentators and the pundits like Josh Thompson and Anderson afterwards were kind of, I don't know, trying to take credit away from the victory, even though, you know, obviously this is absolutely huge victory for Peter Queally. He's had some very good wins before and some very good fights, but this is a serious win for him. This is the biggest win of his career against a guy everybody knows, you know, and a guy who's at the top of the division. So, you know, absolutely brilliant for Queally. Great to see him, you know, get a chance against somebody like Pitbull and take it. You know, he's surely in, like, in title contention now. There's not many more steps he has to make. Pitbull maybe be looking for, was a bit of, they seem to think, the Pitbull brothers seem to think there's a bit of controversy, and I think Queenie went over to the other Pitbull, and they kind of had a bit of a back and forth, and Creedy said, "I didn't do anything illegal. We can watch it back with you," or something like that. And Pitbull kind of backed down. Then he's like, "Oh, okay, well,
he did that.
Like, I can't really argue with that. Like, if we're gonna sit down and watch it together, fair enough." It was a funny moment. He was real angry, and then he was kind of just nodding his head, being like, "Yeah, okay, fair enough."
Fair enough. That was fucking hilarious. But like, I thought the thing about the commentary as well. I went, if anyone listened to the Q&A over on Patreon this week, sign up patreon.com/Severe MMA podcast. I spoke about, someone asked about John McCarthy, and John McCarthy is one of those lads where he's a really great commentator and he's a really bad commentator at the same time, because when you talk about judging and we talk about how, like, rounds went, he's absolutely fantastic. He's, part of writing the rules down through the years and everything like that. He's fantastic. But there's a thing that happens in MMA, and everyone, I spoke about this as well with Kenny Florian. I think he was so bad because he was trying to be Joe Rogan, right? And I think John McCarthy is the same thing in a way as he tries to be Joe Rogan. And what I mean by that is they try to tell stories. They try to say, oh, this guy is muscular, so he's going to wilt. This guy is expected to win, he's going to win. And no matter what happens, that's the story they want to tell. And MMA is not like that. MMA is the exact opposite of that. And we love MMA because of stories like this. Peter Queally not expected to win this fight, going in as the underdog, and you know what he did? He fucking tore up the rule book and he won the fight. That's what MMA is about. And when you try to, get a cheat code for that, it does not work, and you end up looking stupid like they did at the weekend. I thought it was really bad, to be honest. Like, what happened? And my take on the finish is Peter Queally. Okay, Patricia Pitbull took him down, or Patricky Pitbull. Oh, fuck this. They may change their names, but
I don't know. I keep, even though I know them for so many years, the names are so similar. I just I mess it up every time.
It's the worst. There's just like one letter at the end off. But Patricky took him down, and Queally, like, I don't know, was it an Irish thing or maybe a European thing with attacking like elbows from the bottom like that? And we talked about PFL as well a couple of weeks ago with no elbows, and this is the fucking difference between that. But Queally just absolutely, he hit him with 3 really solid elbows, the last of which like bludgeoned the side of his eye. And that, I think that was the issue, because the first one, I think it's hard to see obviously because Patricky has hair and everything like that, but to me, and I might be wrong, so Peter Queally cut him over his right eye in the middle of the fight with a left hook. That was bleeding. Then, to me, I might be wrong, but he cut him on his top of his head, and that was bleeding. And then he cut him on the kind of the left temple, it would be. So he was bleeding out the top of his head and both sides of his head. And that, to me, is the reason why the cutman couldn't stop the cuts. He had just too much to work on. He had both eyes to work on, and I think the one at the top of the head or the one at the kind of the side of the head were just leaking into Patricky's face. And the thing about it is, right, could Patricky have gone on? He could have, but does that matter? Like, is that the rule? Is that what we're looking at? What we're looking at here is, did the bleeding get stopped between rounds? Would it have affected him? Would it have affected him immediately as he came out for the round? It absolutely would have. We saw it. The doctor came over after the cutman had him. He brushed his towel away. He brushed some of the blood away with his towel, and there was still a streak of blood, a stream of blood coming out even after he had brushed it away and helped him kind of to clean away some of that blood before the round had even started, and it was just streaming down into his face. If you're the doctor at that point, what you look at the start of every round is, are they safe to continue? Has the cutman done enough? Was he able to stop the bleeding? And if he's not able to stop the bleeding, and the cutman's job is to stop the bleeding for a fucking second. Basically, if they get back in there and he hits one more punch and opens it up, right, the referee's not going to stop it unless it's very, very, very bad.
The strange thing about it was they did say it was the third round after 1 second to finish.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I think it was that the referee was like, right, we're coming out. Oh, hold on, let's get the doctor. I need to check this blood or something like that. I know it was, yeah, it was one
That's
of
a
those
record
strange
that's going to be hard to beat, though. Quickest finish in a round.
Yeah, James Gallagher did it, didn't he?
Impossible to beat. I think that actually took a couple of seconds to get from to crouch down and tap out.
Yeah, but
I'd have to go back and watch the video.
Yeah, it was a quick one, alright. But yeah, like I honestly, I don't really see the controversy, to be honest. Like Queenie, it wasn't a fight as well where like Queenie was just getting
Like if you're
destroyed.
a Pitbull fan, you'd be a little disappointed
Yeah.
that, like, you know, he didn't, you know, the cut wasn't stopped, or that like, you know, it is a cosmetic injury, but there was a lot of blood. So
And even
we've seen it many times in the past. Fights stopped for cuts like that.
Patricio,
So I don't see why all of a sudden it's up in ours. But you know, as I said earlier, I think if it was the other way around and Pitbull had done the exact same thing to Quealy, there wouldn't have been the outrage. Maybe a lot of people had some accumulators that went down the drain.
Yeah, they did. But it was funny, you know. We talked about the row with Patricio and Quealy, and it wasn't really a row, a bit of a discussion. But his point was there were illegal elbows, not that it shouldn't have been stopped, not that the bleeding shouldn't have been stopped. He wasn't round about that at all.
Definitely weren't illegal elbows.
Yeah, if anyone's listening to this and you're in any doubt, let me just end that doubt for you. Absolutely 100% legal. They were not illegal elbows in any way. For a 12-6 elbow has to be literally, you put your hand straight up in the air and you come straight down with the elbows. It's literally 12 on the clock to 6 on the clock with gravity. It's not 3 to 9. It's not 9 to 3. It's not fucking, what would it be? Oh God, 10 to 5. What is it? I can't read the clock. But you know, it's not that. It's literally, it has to be straight up and down. Even if it's fucking, oh no, it would be 10 to 4. Even if it's 11 to 5, just off. That's not a 12-6 elbow. And these were 9 to 3 elbows. You know, these are perfectly legal, not even close, not even in the realm of talking about it. So if anyone says they're illegal elbows, they don't know the rules of the sport. Absolutely, unequivocally, 100% legal elbows. And a great win, you know. And it's a pity that we even had to discuss that, and that discussed kind of the narrative around it. Big John did, though, in fairness, say that they were illegal elbows, and he kind of took that part of it away. And I feel like he should have taken the other part of it away as well, about it being a good stoppage, because of the decision the referee made. But look, however, for Peter Quealy, I think it was a great win, and he moves on, as you said, Graham. Patricio Pitbull next. It could be for the title. It's hard to see how you don't do that fight next. It's kind of 1-1 between the two gyms now, and we've had that rivalry going for a while. I saw Pedro Carvalho calling out Patricky Pitbull as well last night, which would make a bit of sense, I think, as well at this stage. So, you know, big time and a big win for Irish MMA. I was thinking about it, like, apart from Conor McGregor, you're probably looking at this with the likes of Cathal Pendred and Chris Fields and other people winning the Cage Warriors title, and Aisling Daly, obviously, being the first person in Irish MMA to win a world title back in the day as well. So, you know, it's fantastic for Peter Quealy, fantastic for Irish MMA, you know, in a tough couple of weeks as well. You know, Will Flory and Richie Smullen and Franz Malambo and others got caught, and it was good to see Franz signing for FEN this week as well, and Taka Mandu as well from Team KF signed over for UFC Africa, which we broke over on SevereMMA.com. So it's, you know, it's been a kind of a back and forth couple of weeks for Irish MMA, I suppose, but a very good way to kind of cap off a great performance from Peter Quealy, and a deserved win for me. And even on the judges' scorecards, 2 judges had him even and 1 judge had him up 2-0. So to say if your argument is Patricky was winning the fight and was definitely going to win, well, that's not necessarily true. So, right, while we're here on this Bellator card, we might as well just finish it off before we get to the UFC card.
There was a miracle that night in one of the fights.
What was the miracle? What was it?
Anthony Johnson escaped a choke attempt, even though it had no hooks.
It was.
He looked like he'd given up at that stage, but then he was like, actually, I could just stand up here and I'll be okay.
That'd be grand. Yeah, it was funny because when he gets into that position, all I can think of is like, right,
here we go.
Here we go. He's about to give up here, and you know, we all know what's going to happen. Yeah, that Anthony Johnson fight, I went back and watched it, and I don't know, maybe I was doing a bit of what I was accusing the lads of earlier on. I'm kind of telling my own story before the fight happens, but I was expecting him not to look great, and watching it live, I was like, he didn't look great. But watching it back, I actually think he looked okay. But when your man broke his hand, Jose Augusto, Anthony Johnson just kind of rumbled forwards I'm totally mint pun there. I just started kind of throwing big shots, and then he obviously got hit as we saw and hurt and things like that, and almost got rear naked choked, but kind of fell off more than kind of got out of it, and then came back and got that beautiful knockout in the end. But I think it was a little bit of a blessing in disguise that the Yoel Romero fight didn't happen for him here. The problem is he's fighting Nimkov next, so there's no, as I said on Twitter the other day, there's no hiding place in this one. But yeah, I was impressed by
fair play to Augusto, he's fucking going for him on the feet where like a lot of people historically haven't, and obviously it didn't work out in the end, but it very nearly did. If he hadn't have broke his hand and if he had have maybe just had a little bit more composure and put in his hooks, I think he got a little bit overexcited maybe. He's an inexperienced guy compared to Rumble as well. It's a big fight, and he probably watched a lot of Rumble fights and thinks, oh, like he's given up here. Let me just give him a reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if he had just been a little bit more calculated, he probably would have had to finish there.
Yeah.
So
I saw a lot of people saying that they reckon Jose Augusto will be like a Bellator light heavyweight champion in years to come, and like, he impressed me. He was very good, and I think he impressed you too. If it wasn't for that broken hand, it could have been a different fight. But yeah, good stuff. It was a very good main card, actually. I suppose before we get to the main event, MVP.
What do you think of the Rumble Johnson being like, oh yeah, no, I got rocked there, but I was grand. And they're like, oh no, look at this video, and he's like, no, I was grand. And it's like,
Big John fucking pissing himself laughing at Rumble
John was
Johnson's
loving it.
I was like, what the fuck?
You got some serious brain injury there.
It was like, I was like, what am I watching?
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it, the way you don't remember?
It was, it's funny thinking back about Big John talking like that, but at the time I was like, Are you serious? Especially like who you are saying that, like.
I think Big John is like visibly nervous when he's trying to do the interview, and he just fucks them all up every time. It's just not the role for him.
No, he just tries too hard to be, John Anik, even in that one, rather than Joe Rogan. I think, I don't know. I people hate Big John. I actually don't mind him too much because everyone knows I'm the fucking judging nerd, so I'll take that over everything else. But I honestly, we've talked a lot about Kenny Florian and DC in the past and how bad they are and the criticism they've had. I don't think I've ever seen anyone get as much criticism as Big John. People fucking hate him with a passion. But yeah, anyway. MVP came back here and what MVP did. I think, look, we need to give MVP a little bit more credit for this one. Derek Anderson is a good fighter and this is a good win. So it's not just another Can who he's fighting in this one, but still, like, MVP is a different
still
level.
Not the high level opponent people have been clamoring for years, though. We've had that once with Lima, and hopefully the sounds are we might get it again. Yeah,
Lima's fighting Amasov though, isn't he? And
but MVP was kind of saying like, line me up against one more and then stick me in there against Lima. He seemed to be saying, and
that's the problem with MVP though. Like, his one more is probably someone who's fucking 5 and 3.
He was saying he wanted somebody. Who did he listed? Your boy,
Jason Jackson. Yeah,
that'd be a good fight.
That'd be a very good fight. I hope that that to me. That one and in Lima, that makes a lot of sense, but I don't know, would Bellator do that? Like, we blame MVP a lot for this, and I think it's fucking just Bellator as much as MVP. Like, the UFC wouldn't make these fights where they're just giving a lad fucking bumps to fight all the time, I just don't think they wouldn't, or I don't think they would, and it's...
Super Fight League.
Yeah. But look, it was brilliant. That head kick and the broken nose were just unbelievable. And
fucking hell! Yeah, I think Anderson was expecting some kind of like question mark or back hook kick or something. He just leant right into it. Oh my god! And his nose, fuck's sake!
He just destroyed it. It was. I'm glad you said the hook kick there, because it was one of those where usually, it would be like a question mark kick, or it would be like maybe a kick to the leg or a kick to the body that is expected to go there, and then it comes high.
But his dexterity in his hips and his kicks,
I thought he was going to throw literally the other side of his head. Like, I genuinely thought he was throwing a hook kick.
Yeah, and that's what Anderson thought. Anderson thought, I'm safe here. No.
And then he dipped his head right into it. Like, oh god, it was nasty. And you could see almost immediately his nose crumbling. And I thought it was a good stoppage between rounds as well.
He sold it pretty well though. Like, he didn't. Like, the guy started rubbing a towel against his nose in the corner, and he didn't be like, "What the fuck are you doing?" Like,
yeah, that's true. Right, we'll run through some more of these results here, and then we get to the main event. On the undercard, Eric Perez got a good win and lining him up maybe with a fight with Brian Moore again here. Johnny Soto, Johnny Campbell got wins there, and Johnny Elbin as well. 3 Johnnies in a row. Patchy Mix won. Wasn't that impressive. I thought like there was a head and arm choke at one stage that was on for about 2 minutes, and he kept just like, I'm no jiu-jitsu expert now or anything here, but he kept getting like really high on it, and you could see like the neck of Albert Morales was like free, and if like he just moved down onto it, you could just see like he was grand, and it felt like Patchy Mix was just moving the wrong way, and then he kind of passed a little bit, got a little bit of space from the cage, and then moved downwards into the position where he could have moved for like a minute before that. But however, he got the win anyway, and it was a good bounce back after his loss. But James Gallagher spoke about it afterwards. Obviously, James Gallagher was supposed to fight him here, and he said he didn't look great, and I would tend to agree. But that often happens. We saw it with Francis Ngannou against Derek Lewis. He didn't look great after his title loss. This can't happen. We can see him. In his next fight, it might be a little bit better. Lorenz Larkin, Rafael Carvalho, split decision win for Lorenz Larkin. They're just like, sometimes Lorenz Larkin has great fights, and sometimes Lorenz Larkin has split decisions, and this was one of those. Rafi and Stotts against Josh Hill, not a great fight either. It was okay. Rafi and Stotts won the unanimous decision. Obviously, then we had MVP Quealy and Johnson before we got to Sergio Perez in the main event. I thought it was a great performance from Sergio. Just kind of picked off Archuleta throughout the fight, landed the better, more powerful shots. I think did Archuleta give him down once, I think, maybe? But yeah, Pettis was just a level above, just too powerful, too quick, too good all around. Wins the title, it's kind of good to see coming out, a lot of people saying coming out of the shadow of his brother. I think he's a far superior fighter to his brother. And I know a lot of people, and I said that on Twitter, and a lot of people were kind of in denial of that. I just, like, if you talk about an all-around, okay, for what he's achieved and everything like that, no, absolutely not. But if you're talking about, fighter A versus fighter B and their qualities, Sergio is far and away, I think, a better fighter than Anthony. But what do you think of the performance and of Sergio in general?
Yeah, well, I think it was interesting before the fight in the promo. He was saying that kind of for years he was looking up to Anthony so much and seeing what he achieves in the UFC and trying to emulate him, trying to be like him, even though he's a different fighter. And once he's got away from that, he seems to be,
it's a good point,
more comfortable with himself. And like I still think, he has a bit of a way to go, and he's still developing. But he is still developing. He hasn't stagnated. He's definitely more well-rounded than Pettis, than his name is Pettis too.
The other Pettis.
and Tony P.
Yeah.
So I think for his time, obviously Pettis was a higher level guy, but things move on. I don't think it's much of a
stretch to say.
Yeah, I don't think it's much.
I saw a few people saying like the game has moved on past Anthony.
See if you can agree or disagree, but I don't think you can say, "Oh, that's ridiculous."
Yeah, I think Anthony just kind of failed to move on more than anything else. I don't think Anthony's the type of fighter who won a UFC title and was a very good fighter for years, but I think like hugely underachieved in his career, which is a weird thing to say, I suppose.
When there's a slightly when there's a big enough hole in your takedown defense and the blueprint there, kind of proven time and time again, people are just going to go back to that. Coaches are going to look at those fights and implement a similar game plan, and you're kind of screwed if you can't fix that hole in your game. It's always going to be exploited. Yeah,
100%. Right, let's just before we go to the UFC, let's just quickly touch on this PFL card at the weekend. Not the best card in the world. Kamaru Usman's brother lost at heavyweight. Larissa Pacheco looked really good. He lost to Brandon Sales. Larissa Pacheco looked very good and got a ground and pound stoppage quickly in the first round. Caitlin Young as well coming back here after a while out. Got a win over your girl Cindy Dandois. Kayla Harrison as well just came out and bludgeoned Marina Moraes with a big takedown and lots of ground and pound to get a good win. I suppose we'll speak about her in further detail as the weeks go on, and maybe she gets a couple of bigger fights, but she looks like she's going to just walk that again in that PFL 155 pound tournament. And then in the main event, Fabricio Verdum against Hinan Fehea, which was one of the oddest fights I've seen in a long time. So I'll tell you how I saw it first, Graham. You can tell me if you disagree or not. So Verdum had Fahea in kind of, one of those armbar triangles,
Right.
and Fahea hit him with. It wasn't even necessarily a Brazilian tap. I thought he tapped twice, and it was fairly clear. But Verdum did, so the referee didn't stop it, and Verdum kept fighting. He pulled down the head. And as he did, Fahea kind of, I don't know, it wasn't that he woke up, it was just that he kind of kept fighting himself because he realised Verdum was still fighting, and hit him with 5 serious blows. I think it was with left hands, and hurt Verdum. All of this happened in the space of about maybe 4 to 5 seconds. Verdum then let go of the submission, and Fahea just like pounced on him and finished him with ground and pound, and ended up winning by TKO, ground and pound, midway through the first round. So to me, there was definitely a tap. I think Verdum won. I think if the referee had seen it, it would have been given. Now, people criticise the referee for being on the wrong side, and all. I don't necessarily think he was on the wrong side. I just think it was unfortunate the way he was moving at the time was just happened to be where the fighter wasn't tapping. But I wouldn't criticise him too much. I think it was Keith Peterson, but he did miss it, and I thought Fahea was pretty much the concise winner here, Verdum was the concise winner, and they went on and kept going. To me, it should be overturned. I think it was pretty clear that the tap was there, but I don't know if it will be. What did you think, and what was your take on the whole incident?
Doubt it'll be overturned, because no matter how much evidence you have and how obvious it is, it's extremely hard to get things overturned, even if it's a insane decision, which we've seen over the years. We've seen some, but this is just very unfortunate for Doom. Nothing matters after the tap. Like, that's. People can say, "Oh, he held on for another second and pulled his head down." It doesn't fucking matter. Mm-hmm. The guy tapped. That's it. He gave up, and the ref missed it, and he should have seen it. But as you said, it wasn't that it was like the most obvious tap ever from the place he was, and he wasn't in a particularly bad position. It's just he should have seen the tap, and it should have been a victory for Verdum. But it nearly definitely won't be overturned, and everybody will just
continue on with their lives.
Yeah, probably don't even bother going to all the effort of appealing it, just because you're wasting your fucking time, and they're going to frustrate you even more by just not listening to clear evidence.
Yeah, that's a sad situation we have in MMA, isn't it? Yeah, but I don't know.
No matter how obvious it is, some guy can pull your eye out of your head, and they'll be like, "Nah, I can't see anything there."
Is this the type of one though, where in soccer, if a referee misses a penalty and it's not given, okay, we forget about VR for a second, but it's like, all right, look, the referee made a decision, it's human error, let's just move on. You can't go back and re-ref the match. I wonder, is that a case here? And if it was, I could actually kind of buy that a little bit. I was like, look, we all make mistakes, you didn't see it, and that was that. I don't know. I think it's a bit of an odd one, but
people shouldn't be annoyed for Doom for fighting on for a second.
No, absolutely not.
It should be like the guy tapped and then started like pummeling Verdum once he let go of the triangle. So
when I said what happened there, I literally was just saying what happened rather than what I think. I agree with you 100%. The second the tap came, the fight should have been stopped by the referee. Like as we've seen it with this exactly. This is the reason why you don't stop fighting. You don't stop fighting because the referee didn't see you. Keep fighting until the referee sees it.
He held on to that for too long. It's like, well, the ref didn't stop the fight. He's not going to let go and risk not getting the finish.
Yeah. And I suppose, we can move on to the UFC. And the first UFC fight was kind of one of the reasons, I suppose, why you don't stop. Carlton Harris against Christian Aguilera, won by Anaconda choke. And to me, he choked him out twice. And it was Mark Goddard reffing it. So Mark Goddard, obviously, to me, up there with Jason Herzog, is the best referee in the world. So he knows better than me. But to me, I thought Harris kind of choked him out. It was like borderline. I think he woke back up a little bit, and then went out again, and then Mark Goddard stopped it. But with chokes like that, I think it's different. Like, if that was a fucking armbar or something like that, and you need to stop that. If someone's arm is getting fucking snapped, you need to stop it. But when it's a choke, I know people maybe sometimes, if you're not familiar with MMA, and everyone here is, and everyone, I suppose people know a lot better than me training jiu-jitsu and everything like that. If you get choked for a second too long, you're grand, you're going to get back up. It's not fun, I'm sure, and people getting choked out isn't fun, but it's not going to affect you short term or long term, medium term. You're going to be fine. We're going to get a clear, concise winner of the fight, and let's just move on. And I don't think many people are criticizing Mark Goddard here. He gave it an extra second, tried to see. the fact that your man was kind of still moving, he had to give it another extra second, and then he was definitely out and he stopped it. Nothing wrong with that, you know. I thought it was fine. It was a little, you could argue it was a little bit late, but I think you're better safe than sorry, I suppose. Well, that's probably the opposite of what this is, but you know, it was grand, fine.
Yeah, I think the fighter on the receiving end would prefer the ref to wait that second to make sure, rather than call it a submission when he's not out. You know what I mean? Definitely. I think every fighder would prefer that.
Yeah, definitely. Then on the undercard there, John Young Park got the unanimous decision. There was or a majority decision even.
Yeah, draw there, 30-25 on a draw.
It was weird. I actually think.
What does the Dermot Gallagher of MMA judging have to say?
I didn't see it. No, I was watching. I don't necessarily think it was a 30-25. Look, the 30-25, if you want to look at breakdown of 30-25, right? So there was a point taken, so it's 30-26. I think it was the third round that was a borderline 10-8. So let's say they didn't give that 10-8. So that would have been 30-27 without the point taken. And the 28-28 without the point taken is 29-28. So you're only gone from 30-27 to 29-28. It's not that much of a move, like, you know. The first two rounds are very close. It looks bigger because there's like a 5-point difference in one and a 0-point difference in the other, but I don't know. I maybe have been very on Judges Union there. What I just said and win full DC counting the numbers there. But it wasn't as bad as people are making out. One judge gave 2 rounds to one lad. The other judge gave 2 rounds to the other lad, and then there was the point taken in the middle of it as well. So look, I think the right guy won. I think Park was the better fighter. I think he deserved to get it. And look, one judge gave it 29-26 as well, which is. Which he gave the 10-8 as well in there. So when there's a borderline 10-8, when there's a point taken, it can move from a 9-9 to a 10-8, and then move from a 10-8 to a 10-9. So it's there's going to be a lot of kind of a big variation of scores there, especially if they disagree on 2 rounds. But however, I think the right guy won. This Mike Trezana, Ludovic Klein, I think people are giving out about this as well, but I genuinely kind of wasn't watching it. The problem with these fights is who gives a shit about these fights? Genuinely, like, and not to be bad or anything, but like, who gives Mike Trezana?
Klein is
Tim and their fucking 7 friends care, but like,
who 8,000 instead of 16,000 or 10,000 instead of 20,000.
That is bad, but I think people thought Trezana won. I don't know. I'm like, this sort of fight, I didn't really watch it live.
I know he won the third
Never
round.
Watch it back.
He won the third round, but he lost the fight. He lost the first 2 rounds. It was a good.
Who lost the first 2 rounds? Trezana
lost the first 2 rounds.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then he won the third. Somehow,
I trust 3 judges, Graham, over you now. In fairness, I was.
Well, they all had different. Klein round 1, Adelaide Bird gave him in the 29-28, and Cleary gave him the second, and
when that happens though,
gave Trezana all 3.
When that does happen though, it's a close fight. You know, when the judges are split like that, it's always a close fight.
It wasn't like this glaringly obvious thing that you didn't even have to pay attention to know who won, but it was if you watched it, I thought it was clear enough. I was very surprised.
You only think that. I really watch my pin tweet, Graham, again. I think you need to remind me. Anyway, I thought Phil Hawes fought very well. This is one of those ones when I was doing my fight picks during the week, and also as well while we're here, head on over to FightPicks.com, download the app, go to the iOS or the Play Store and get the Fight Picks app. Big fight coming up next week. We'll be breaking that down in a few seconds here. UFC 262. Get your picks in for that. Go to leagues, join the Severe MMA League. They actually kind of did up the app there, I think during the week or last week, and it looks way better now. Even it looks fantastic. There's a lot of things changed. Some great stats there as well to help, even if you're doing if you're putting bets on. It's really, really helpful. So download that FightPicks app. Go to FightPicks.com. You click the link there. It'll take you to your Play Store or iOS, and download the app and join in. And we will.
Or if you already have it downloaded, you might have to go to update to get the new update it in your store to get the new features or the new design. Yeah, it's great. It's really good. But to me, my point in that, Phil Hawes, I was doing my fight picks during the week, and I was like, Phil and Neil Magny is a similar type of fighter to me. Is like,
if this guy shows up and he does what I think he can do in very different ways with the two of them, I think he'll win. But like, I'm not 100% confident every time he will show up and do that. There's lots of fighters like that, I suppose, in the UFC. But Phil Hawes, very good performance against Kyle Dawkins. This was another one where everyone, they were saying in the fight, he's going to wilt, he's going to get tired. And he just didn't. He won 30-26 on 2 cards, 29-27 on another one. So he did 10-8 in there. So that was a very good performance. And Phil Hawes is kind of finally coming of age. It was probably 4 or 5 years ago everyone thought he was going to come through, and he was on The Ultimate Fighter and Dana White Contender Series and everything like that. So it's been a long road for Phil Hawes, and it's good to see him finally coming good. And I suppose you could say the same for Gregor Gillespie, who got the win over Carlos Diego Ferreira. He had a tough first round. The problem with Gillespie, he takes so many shots. He reminded me a little bit of...
And when you take all those shots, I think it, like, people say, it's cardio, but I think taking all those shots is slowing you down, Yeah. When he comes up against, I know this is like, a good guy and stuff, but when he comes up against better guys, like, I don't know, he's gonna have to adapt his game or close some of these holes in his game. But he definitely has a lot of potential, but you can see the holes being exposed. Yeah, you can definitely imagine him against someone like even like a Charles Oliveira now, who maybe not the best striker now, but he throws big hard strikes. Like someone like that is going to be an issue for him. I talked a lot about Dominic Reyes last week. He reminds me a little bit of Dominic Reyes, where it's not that he's getting knocked out by those shots, but he's getting like rocked a little bit and moved a little bit, especially in the judges' cards. He's too happy to take the shots. You think it's like... Yeah, if he actually just like kind of went in there with a bit of a more careful game plan, it's not the technique, it's more the attitude in there. I think maybe, but I don't know as well as it. They speak a lot on broadcast these days, and it's a thing that I wouldn't know much about. And I suppose we have to listen to the coach and stuff. But about sparring and the lack of sparring, people not sparring as much these days. To me, someone like a Gregor Gillespie, you wouldn't have seen a few years ago as much, where, to me, he doesn't look battle hardened in kind of a striking realm, like in wrestling and obviously like that. I think he was an NCAA champion. DC was talking about it last night. But as a striker, he doesn't look like someone who has taken a licking and sparring and having to come back and, maybe getting knocked down and hurting in the first, half an hour of sparring, and then, or on the first 5 minutes of sparring, and then going for half an hour or whatever it might be. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe I'm completely off and I don't know. It's just pure speculation. But I don't know. To me, it kind of looks like that. And I think that's the thing maybe we will see more of in the future. And I don't know whether it's a good or bad thing, to be honest, because, to be a top fighter, you have to know how to fucking fight, and you have to be able to come through those wars. And if you're not having a few of those wars in the gym, it's probably tougher to do it. Now, should you be having those wars in the gym and you're not getting paid for it? Probably not either, but there's a happy medium probably in there that you need to find. And I think Gillespie against a higher level of competition, that will be an issue. But with his wrestling, if he can use that even better in fights, I think that could all be nullified. And as we saw it there, it was a great comeback. He did very, very well, and he got a very, very good finish in the end. I think he kind of broke Gillespie in. He just kept taking those shots and he broke him. Now, as we mentioned, maybe not the best thing in the world to be taking all those shots to break him, but he did that anyway, and very good. It looked like he probably lost the first round 10-8. His opponent missed weight. It was the scrambles in this fight were just unbelievable. The takedown stop, Kimura was no good, broken. I think it was this fight as well. Andrew McGahan tweeted out about it, saying that Ferreira kind of had the Kimura, and his corner kept roaring him, get up. I was like, well, let him at it. Like, he's a very good jiu-jitsu artist here. Your man is a big wrestler. Why would you not let him go for this submission? And then, he kind of gets mounted and back mounted and the shit beat out of him. I was like, yeah, it's probably not the best advice in the world, but however. The heavyweight fight, absolutely terrible. No, we're not going to talk about it. Neil Magny against Jeff Neal. A very good performance again from Neil Magny. Jeff Neal, he went in, he threw his power shots, missed most of them, and that was that really. And Neil Magny kind of picked him off with jabs. Little bit like Billy Joe Saunders, Canelo. There was no robbery here though. That was the only difference, and he didn't get stopped. But nobody quit.
No, well, he broke his orbital. I remember one time I said Kell Brook. I didn't even say Kell Brook quit. I put up a picture of him and Diego Sanchez, like, and it was more for Diego than anything else. And the amount of people giving out about, I think Neil Seary was fucking roaring at me. He's like, "Oh, you're only a fucking pussy sitting at home." It's like, which was fair enough, but still, like, there's no question about it.
Yeah,
MMA
really
fighters.
you there, Perez.
He didn't. MMA fighters are like 100 times tougher than boxers. Not even a fucking question about it. Not even a question. They really are. But however,
they're a sensitive bunch. These fighters.
they are, aren't they? Jesus, for lads who go out and punch the heads off each other, they're very sensitive. But sure, look, I suppose when you've pricks like me talking shit about you, actually, I have a real YouTube hater there. I saw it yesterday. He's always giving out about me talking about scoring and everything. He's like, "You've never done it. You don't understand these positions." And I'm like, "Well, fair enough. Like, fair enough. I haven't. No, you're dead right." So, Mikey 1287 on YouTube.
You're on standby for a major promotion, though, no?
Yeah, I was. I've been in that fucking. I also
you had the seal of approval to go ahead.
Yeah, I also offered to fight Rug last week, so maybe it might happen. Right, let's get through this card. It was it was 9 fights, so it wasn't too bad. But when it's a 6-fight main card, it's like, is this ever going to end? And we were waiting for the boxing as well. So yeah, Alex Morona, we kind of were. Alex Morona knocked out Cowboy 10-1 on Paddy Power up. The easiest money I've won in a while.
Yeah,
I think.
You were just like, I just messaged him like, am I gone insane here, or what's going on with these odds?
I didn't realize it until you texted me that, because I was sure that Morona would be a big favorite here. Like, Cowboy, we can forget about Cowboy. Like, Cowboy is done and dusted. He couldn't throw a punch. He looked awful. Like, this is we talk about the shadow of BJ Penn and stuff like that, and the ghost of fighters like that. This is the ghost of Cowboy Cerrone. And like, Cowboy was never the best fighter in the world, but he was always a good top 10, arguably top 5 fighter for a long period. But he's not that anymore. Like, Alex Morona is a good fighter, a good tough guy. But
he's a good quick starter, and Cerrone's a notoriously terrible starter. But I think it's more than that. Like,
yeah, way more, yeah.
We've seen it against Cerrone, against like high level guys, take him out in the first round, and a lot of that is down to just the opponent going for him, knowing that he's a slow starter, and this just looked. I think Cerrone himself, he's talking. A lot goes on inside his head, and he was talking about being told to retire and stuff. I think for somebody like Cerrone, that's going to affect his psyche more than most fighters.
Yeah.
And I think, like, once that's in his head, maybe, it might be, he's never going to retire. Like, he's never going to retire. He's going to have to be carted out of there. Like, he's this guy who'll fight on a day's notice and time again. Like, he's,
Cerrone needs to go to Bellator, I think, because he needs a new lease of life to get this retirement talk out of his head. I think he needs like a fucking 10-fight contract or something like that. I think that's what Cerrone needs.
I think the UFC would give him a long contract. I think Dana White would obviously be very appreciative of the amount of times he's stepped in on all sorts of short notice to fight, to save cards and stuff like that. But yeah, like, Cerrone's gonna have to like look down the division to kind of build himself back up.
Very tough to match him now. Like, it's very tough. Yeah, so I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's Cerrone's always going to be a name, somebody that people know and like to see fight and all that stuff. But at some stage you're going to run out of options with him. I don't know what you do with Cerrone, because he has been, Dana White is like not a loyal guy, but I think Cerrone has been such a good company man that Dana will kind of keep him around a little bit longer than others. And I don't think this is like an atrocity or anything. You need to cut Cerrone or retire him or anything, but I just think, his best days are behind him, and in an ideal world, he'd have maybe, a couple more nice matchups for a decent paycheck and be on his way. But as I said at the start of this, like, Cerrone's the kind of guy that, like,
he'll never stop.
He'll never retire. Like, he's out there on camps doing all these things to get adrenaline. He's doing all these mad fucking bull riding, fucking, I don't know what he's doing. You never know what he'd be doing. He's putting himself in danger to get a buzz his whole life. You know, he was a bull rider before he was an MMA fighter. This is just in his DNA, as Dana would say. He's a risk taker. He's a daredevil, nearly. Like, you know what I mean? He's going to need to be tied down and made to retire. And you know, maybe his grandmother could do that, but if she doesn't do it, then I don't think anybody else is going to be able to put.
He needs to like become a professional windsurfer or something like that. You know, do something where he can be full time, do something else, and concentrate on that. That's not going to make him fucking take blows to the head like this. Because this was.
You think he'd be a good commentator, a good pundit? We haven't really seen him given the chance. If my memory is correct.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe, but I don't know.
He's a bit of a joke personality, but he's not like, you know, trying to make people laugh. Like,
I mean, this isn't like start to the podcast. I think he could like. I think the problem with Cerrone is he says a lot of stupid shit, and we saw a lot of it this week. But
he get himself in trouble. Yeah,
there is a certain demographic for that as well. Like, I'm sure.
But if he's retired, you can't really cancel him. You know, if he has his own podcast and he's retired,
like us, we can't be cancelled.
You know, you could be like fucking Cerrone. Fucking get a co-host and BMF Ranch and all that shit. You can just fucking do it there.
I'm available, Donald. I'm available.
Slide into my DMs.
Yeah, do it. But yeah, look, and for Marona, it was good. It was a good win. He came out immediately, and as you said, Graham, like a fast start is what you need against Cerrone, and that's what he had, and he just like boxed the head off him. And they were kind of saying in the commentary, he's throwing everything into his shots. Well, he fucking should be throwing everything into his shots. You know, he's fighting Donald Cerrone. Go out and fucking put it on him. And he landed that big overhand right and was able to get the finish over Cerrone. And both of us had the 10-1 back, so we were happy enough about it, to be honest. But whatever, it was a great performance from Marona, and you know, sad what Cerrone did. But look, it happens in MMA. It's people have a life cycle in MMA, and it always happens. And look, we can just hope Cerrone gets out before it's too late. But we all know he won't.
What is he? 50 odd fights into his career, and he'd gone like 50 without being finished. And then Gaethje finished him, Conor finished him, and now you know. He's had up and downs. He's had streaks both ways before, but he'd never really been consistently finished like this. You know, he'd already taken a lot of damage and a lot of wear and tear on his body, and even outside of fighting with bull riding and mad shit he's been doing. And now, you know, if it was a really mentally strong fighter, maybe they could overcome this and get a streak together. But for some reason, I think with Cerrone, it's just gonna add to his mental anguish that he seems to have openly talks about up to the fight. It just doesn't bode well, I think. But you never know. Like guys can make comebacks, but I'd like to see him take a step down for the next few fights at the very least to evaluate where he is.
You know, you were saying Dana will be, you know, nice to him and give him a contract. I think he might give him one or two more, but you know, I think he will get rid of him like everyone else because he's earning a lot of money. And if he's looking this bad, I don't think Dana will see much value in him.
He can make names off him though. Dana will, like, you know, he can talk all the we don't want to make a penny off this kind of stuff, but he does, like, you know.
He does. But look, we'll see how it plays out, I suppose, to steal a phrase from Dana. In the main event, Marina Rodriguez versus Michelle Waterson. Look, Marina Rodriguez, I think, just dominated this fight, apart from the fourth round.
Waterson, like, you know, fairness to her, she's very tough.
She very tough, yeah.
She keeps fighting. Like, it was one stage in one of the early rounds where it looked like she was going to be finished, and the ref was shouting, "You need to do something." And they might not have been the best punches, but she threw back, and she's always game. And you know, she even took a round there, you know, where she was basically outclassed in the whole fight, but she still managed to tough it out. And I think she pretty clearly lost 4-1, but it's a good performance from Marina. But I think Michelle Waterson, you know, she showed that maybe her skills aren't really there, but she can hang with somebody like Marina. But you know, for all these kind of older women fighters, like Michelle Waterson's been around for so long. What was that, Fight Chicks? It was called, that program.
Yeah, out in Puerto Rico or somewhere.
Yeah, Jesus, that must have been, like, how long ago was that? Fucking more than 10 years ago. Like.
Yeah.
And like, these have been around for a long time, and the game's just, you know, being tough and having like basic skills and being tough just isn't good enough anymore with these up and coming well-rounded fighters.
In fact, she's so small as well. Like, this was at flyweight. She's like, this was 20 pounds over her weight. Like, she should be a 105. It was. Yeah, it was, and you know, I thought throughout the whole fight, well, not just the 4 rounds, she kept landing that right hand all the time on Rodriguez. I was like, you know, she's having a chance here. Look, Rodriguez just, I think they compared her to Anna and Jacek, and it was, look, it was a good comparison. She was landing her combinations over and over. She kind of has that stiff shoulder, you know, right hand attack where it's just kind of pummeling you at all times, and she looked very, very good. She's kind of more unorthodox, I think, than most people, and she's kind of a fun style as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing her fighting some of the best. And she's going to be obviously back down to 115. It was because this was short notice, and even last weekend we weren't even able to preview it much because we didn't know it was going to be the main event. And for them to go 5 rounds, like I said, it was weird. It was one of those fights. It was like a tie fight or something, because the first few rounds were like, they weren't doing much. And obviously we nearly got the finish there, as you spoke about a second ago. But then, like, the 4th and 5th round, it kind of came alive a little bit, especially the 5th round was a very good round. I think one judge gave Waterson the 5th round, if I'm not mistaken. There is a 48-47 in there. I don't see that, to be honest. I think it was 49-46, but however, it looked the right person won anyway, and there was 2 of the judges got it completely right for me. I might be off myself, but yeah.
So a night of some bad judging scorecards, you would have to say, as a representative of the union.
I wouldn't say that at all. No, I don't think there was any bad scorecards, to be honest here, apart from the fucking boxing. Horrible. Did you see those boxing scorecards? Someone had fucking.
I didn't see the scorecards, but I saw Twitter just giving every round to Canelo. But you know, I was watching it. But I don't really know the rules of scoring in boxing the way maybe other people do who follow the sport properly. I just like throw on the odd bout when I've nothing else to do, or it's on right after an MMA event or whatever. So I'm definitely not an expert or anything, but to me it looked like the tide had kind of turned up until the round that it was finished in towards Saunders. And you know, fair play to Canelo, he did, you know, close his eye and all that, but I was a bit disappointed that Saunders didn't fucking fight on, to be honest. Like,
I don't know, it was a tough one when you do break your eye and shatter it like that, but it was, I thought it was a very, very close fight. Like, Canelo was landing those punches to the stomach, and he was like, and we will get to UFC 262 here in a second, so don't worry, but he was landing those punches to the stomach early in the fight. But like, it was one of those fights or bouts even where, like, I thought Billy Joe was winning all of it, apart from like those couple of big shots that Canelo was landing, and he didn't do that in every round. And the fact that, like, he got, I think it was 6-2 on one judge's card, that's unfathomable to me. Like, there was 3 rounds in the middle of that there where Billy Joe was just like jabbing him up and running around him and not getting touched. It was, I don't know, it was bizarre.
I think the first 3 or 4 were Canelo. I think the first was very close, but I think he kind of won a few. But then there was like a little kind of momentum shift where Saunders kind of looked more comfortable and kind of was fighting a little bit with his hand, or boxing a little bit with his hands down. And obviously it's a risky strategy, but it seemed to be where he was more comfortable. But you know, Canelo did land some big shots, and you know, he did break the orbital bone, and he did win the fight, or the bout, sorry. And you know, fair play to him or whatever. He overcame a tricky opponent. But I did think that, like, it was strange, the whatever, maybe it's just my Twitter timeline, but people seem to be dismissing any round that wasn't scored for Canelo, even in, you know, the rounds where, okay, you could make an argument that Canelo's body work was better than whatever, you can make an argument, but to completely dismiss, I thought was a bit strange. But as I said, I'm not a boxing scoring expert by any means.
It does seem to happen in boxing. I think MMA scoring is a lot more certain than boxing scoring as well, because they always say, what they say in MMA sometimes, but it kind of comes over from boxing, like, what do you like? It's like, well, what do you like? I like fucking punches, you know. And I was giving Canelo a couple of those rounds where he was landing those heavy punches, even though Billy Joe was probably landing more, you know, jabs and stuff like that. I think he deserved to win those rounds, but there wasn't many of those rounds, man. But however, look, it didn't matter in the end. He got the
biggest impactful strikes came from Saul Alvarez, but you know, I don't think it's quite as tilted that way,
as MMA. 100%. Yeah, that's it. That was kind of exactly my point. Yeah, but however, look, it was a good bout anyway. It's not often we see these big boxing bouts that turn into like a good even matchup and we get a finish like that. But it was a little bit disappointing in the. It wasn't disappointing that the way it ended. I thought it was just disappointing that we were kind of robbed of a very close fight, and then the judges' scorecards come out afterwards and we're like, what the fuck was that about? I don't know. Seems to happen in boxing all the time, but I don't know. Doesn't matter. This is MMA podcast.
There's a strange thing, but even on Twitter, on the commentary, on everything, they were kind of like, "Oh well, this is a Saunders round, but the judges would probably give it to Canelo." I was like, "What's going on here?"
Yeah, most people don't know shit about boxing. I think is probably the thing about it. But anyway,
but even the people talk about the judges. They were saying, "Oh well, like it's a close round." It probably, I think a couple of the commentators or the pundits were brought up, and they had scorecards that were either very close or a couple of rounds to Canelo or a round or two to Saunders. But they were kind of qualifying it with, I saw that round for that one, but the judges would probably see it for Canelo. So I thought it was strange.
Yeah, it was strange, but sure, fuck them. Boxing have their own problems. We have enough of our own problems. We'll stick to it. Right, UFC 262. The Diaz versus Edwards fight has been moved off of this, so it is a good card now, and it was a great card, I suppose, until a week ago. But on the undercard, there's some names like Kevin Aguilar against Tucker Lutz. Gina Mazzani's on this card. Mike Grundy for the English MMA fanatics against your boy Lando Venata. It'd be interesting to see that fight. I think that should be fun. Antonina Shashinkov versus Andrea Lee. That could be a very good fight. Antonina had a great performance in her last bout, so it'll be interesting to see how she gets on there. Big fan of Matt Schnell. He's up at bantamweight now against Rodrigo Bontorin. That's a pity. I liked him at flyweight. I'm not sure what the crack that is. Maybe it's just because it's short notice or something. But
ooh, Matt Snell, can't you smell that Snell? Had to get it in again.
Yeah, you can every time. Jacare is also on this card against Andre Muniz. Apparently, Andre Muniz has won like 6 in a row, so that could be a bit of crack. Always fun to see Jacare. My boy Edson Barboza against Shane Burgos. That fucking sounds like a fun fight. That sounds like a fight of the night in the making there. Caitlin Chukagan against Viviane Rougeau. Not a bad fight. Hermanson versus Shabazian. It'll be interesting to see Shabazian back. Hermanson's always tough if he can kind of pull the fear out of Shabazian like he has in the past. I think you probably fancy Hermanson in that one, but Shabazian, everyone thought he was going to be a champion until he kind of got dismantled recently, so it'll be very, very interesting to see what way he will look and see if he can bounce back. And then we have the two huge fights at lightweight. Tony Ferguson against Team Sheehan's Benil Dariush, and Charles Dubronx Oliveira against Iron Michael Chandler for the it's the full UFC lightweight title now, if I'm not mistaken, which is a bit odd. But how would you see these two lightweight fights going, Graham? They're two fucking fun fights, aren't they?
Yeah, I think Dariush will beat Ferguson, but I'm this Oliveira Chandler, I'm going back and forth on it. Like, somebody with Oliveira's skills, his abilities MMA wise and stuff, I'd pick him a lot more comfortably than. I know Oliveira's been on a great streak and he hasn't shown it recently, but I'll always have that in the back of my head that like when the going gets tough, even a little bit, he can just give up. And bizarre things. Remember the Holloway fight where he got kind of punched in the shoulder and it gave up. It was just like, what the fuck? So that's always makes me a little bit wary. And Mike Chandler, he's a very good fighter. He's experienced in title fights, very experienced in title fights compared to Oliveira. It's a tough one. I'm going back and forth. I'm leaning towards Oliveira, but I'll always have that little doubt in my mind that if Chandler can just make it dirty, make it hard for him, that he might wilt.
I always have that doubt in my mind, but I think that doubt is kind of further in the back of my mind now than it would have been maybe 4 or 5 fights ago. I just think he looks very
definitely.
good.
Yeah, it was the first thing you think about 4 or 5 fights ago.
Well, you always make the point, having being at these big title fights, being in a title fight is something that might bring it back out. The stresses of fight week, the media, the bright lights being the main event, having the belt on the line. That's something that could bring those mental frailties back out. No, I think he's got past them, and I do think it's a thing you can get past as well, as we've seen with him. But I would favour Oliveira a lot here, to be honest. But you saw Mike Chandler coming in, and he fought a longer, kind of bigger guy against Dan Hooker, and he did a good job of getting inside and hooking. And as you said, he's used to these big fights in Bellator, and it's a lad with one fight in the UFC, maybe you would think he wouldn't have the experience in big sellout crowds, but he has. He's fought in front of 10,000-15,000 people multiple times in the main event with a title on the line for Bellator. I know it's slightly different than Bellator, but you still have that added pressure, especially when you are the Bellator guy. He's only lost lost to Bellator champions as well, so Oliveira would be the first to beat him who wasn't. So it's a very, very fun, interesting fight. I think Oliveira might be a little bit too long for him, and if Chandler comes inside, he will need to make him pay, because if Chandler goes in there and tries to take Oliveira down, you're getting into a whole different world then, because you do not want to be taking Charles Oliveira to the ground. His jiu-jitsu is unbelievable, and he's scrambled, and he's good from the, he's back, and he's good from his side, and he's good from your fucking back especially as well. So if you're Michael Chandler, you're probably wanting to avoid that area.
If he can put him on his back and kind of be half in, half out and land shots, where he can kind of step away and try and add...
it's danger though, isn't it?
Yeah. Even kick the legs hard, just make it dirty and uncomfortable, and score for Oliveira, and just see if he cracks or not.
Yeah, that's true. That's actually true. Even take him down, stand back up, and put him on his back, turn him out a little bit. Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad tactic, I don't think. But yeah, to me, it's a tough fight to see a method of victory for Michael Chandler in it, just because of how good Oliveira's boxing has become, and because of how good his ground game is as well. But let's say Chandler is able to get him down, and he's able to spin around on top and not get himself into any submission trouble. I think that will be a game changer. Maybe if he can get into half guard and can control on top, maybe that will be the thing that forces Oliveira to maybe not wilt, but to lose this fight. And I think I think Chandler can come inside and land a big shot. He's powerful hands as well, and he is a good smaller fighter, and that will be the one benefit for him against Oliveira. But I think Oliveira is a good long fighter. He boxed Tony Ferguson up. He's wrestling against Tony Ferguson, looked fantastic, and we know what his jiu-jitsu looks like as well. So I would majorly favour Charles Oliveira here, but we'll have the betting show as well on Patreon on Friday, so we'll talk more about it then. I suppose I'll have watched more stuff, and I'll have done the rewatch by then as well, so I might have a better idea.
Yeah.
But
and your boy Dariush, I think I've always been kind of never that high on Tony Ferguson, and I think he's a bit shop worn now. He's very hittable. I think his jiu-jitsu it's more crazy and risky than anything, and you might get away with that against guys who aren't very good, but as you go up the levels, I think that I don't see him getting a submission here at all. I see I
could see Dariush submitting him.
Yeah, I could see that. If anything, I could see Dariush submitting him. I think this is a difficult fight for Ferguson. He's had a lot of shots to the head over the years. He's had injuries that he didn't really take seriously, like bad injuries that he came back too quick from, and he's a bit of a wild man in that sense, and people like that. But for your career longevity, not really taking a knee surgery or a knee injury that seriously and coming back, it's just a terrible decision. Yeah. And I think he's a bit shop worn. It was never that good, and I think maybe a few years ago it would have been a really close fight with Dariush, but I see Dariush winning this comfortably enough if he comes out and looks like he has recently.
Yeah, look, I don't know. I know everyone knows I'm a big Dariush fan, but it depends. If Tony Ferguson can bounce back yet, I know he had a few excuses after his last fight, and if they were legitimate and he's back to his best here, Dariush still doesn't have the best chin in the world. If Tony Ferguson can put on a big pace early, maybe not take as many shots from Dariush. If this turns into a war of attrition, Dariush has been winning them lately, and he has big power in his hands as well. But Tony Ferguson still has
what's
a really
Ferguson's chin like after his recent fights? He took a lot of damage.
It's weird because Tony Ferguson isn't far removed from the
And is his chin that good? He's getting knocked down repeatedly by people like Vanata, and not really a knockout artist unless he's landing some kind of fancy kick or something. Yeah. Has he come up against a really big hitter and shown that he can take the shots without, getting finished? I don't think he has.
Yeah, I would fancy Dariush as well. I think it is usually when we see someone falling off a cliff, they don't fucking sail back up, and I think Tony Ferguson has been falling off a cliff lately, and it's very unlikely he comes back up. And Dariush has been on an upward trajectory. He's been getting better. His chin isn't as much of an issue as it once was, and I think he's found a very good style. But that style leads this to be a very good fight as well, I think, and it'll be interesting. I don't know. I'm a little bit hesitant to say that I think Dariush will definitely win. I think he'll blow him away, but I do think he'll win. It's just logic, and having watched their last few fights, I think Dariush is the pick here, but I don't know. It's tough with Tony Ferguson. I kind of feel sorry for him a little bit as well. He never got that title shot. He never got into that big spot, which I know he was overrated and everything like that, and he wasn't as good as people made out, but he earned it. Like, he won fucking 10 fights in a row, whatever it was.
Well, he did get title shots, and he pulled out with injuries.
Yeah,
some guys get title shots, get injured, and take them anyway. Sometimes that's what you got to do. You got to seize that chance, and maybe their injuries were so bad that he couldn't fight.
You were just giving out to him a minute ago for coming back from injuries too quick, and now you're giving out to him for not taking fights through injuries. So fucking make up your mind.
No, well, I'm saying, like, when you get a title shot, when you,
I know what you mean.
It's a different situation. Like, these don't come along all the time, and for Ferguson, it didn't come back around. And like Bisping was like fucking injured and on a fucking set and fucking who knows where filming a movie, got a late call, and he went. And he's achieved what people, and even he told Ariel Helwani he in an interview that he thought he would never achieve. He kind of accepted that he wasn't going to get there, and sometimes you just got to fucking take that chance. And maybe Ferguson's injury was worse than it was some kind of like, there was one of them I think was there was like blood in his lungs or something like that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. A lot of fighters, I think, a lot of fighters would have hidden that injury and fought, and surprised Tony didn't. Maybe the fact that Tony didn't shows that they maybe were worse than he let on. Maybe he's one of these guys that like, it's grand, it's just blood in the lungs, and it's actually something worse.
Yeah.
So like, Ferguson's a bit of a hard man to believe anything he says. He says some things that don't make sense. But I think he overachieved for a long time, and now he's kind of on the downturn of his career. And Dariush isn't exactly a upper echelon guy for years, like maybe for Ferguson, a few years ago, maybe Ferguson, would have beaten Dariush. Like, Dariush was in a different place where he was a bit chinny, and Ferguson was in a different place where he had a lot of momentum. And he, I just think, maybe I'm underestimating Ferguson. Like, maybe I am, but I just think he's shop worn, and I think he was. It sounds harsh, but he was never as good as he was hyped up to be. Like, I'm not saying he wasn't a good fighter. He's a very, very good fighter, but the way, like, the influence of Joe Rogan and Eddie Bravo hyping you up all the time over the years on huge podcasts, I think inflated people's views of his abilities, and even of, like, his achievements, who he's beaten. Has he really beaten the best? Don't think so.
No, that unfortunate. Actually, just looking up my I have a list of like my inspirational quotes on Twitter, and they have deleted the account where I got my inspirational quotes from. So I'm fucked. I have one though, because we were talking about one there, but we'll leave it at that anyway. Look, I'm looking forward to next week. It was a pretty busy week in the world of MMA, and we'll have lots of stuff on Patreon as well this week. So if you want to sign up, Patreon.
I'd like to apologise to Noah McGrath for
doesn't he still owe you €50 for that?
He does, yeah. I wonder what the interest rate. How long ago was that?
It must be 100 now. Like, Jesus,
fuck's sake.
These things happen in MMA.
At Noah McGrath 4 on Twitter.
While you're there as well, follow Graham at Severe MMA, me at Sean Sheehan Ba, and the podcast account as well at Severe MMA Pod, and on Instagram as well. Posting stuff now all the time on Instagram, at Severe MMA Podcast over on Instagram. So follow along there. We're now almost at 1,000, I think. So I don't really understand how Instagram works, but I'm putting up loads of stuff, and I think it's pretty good. So follow along over there if you do one thing today, and subscribe as well to the podcast. It's free. So yeah. All right, everyone. Thanks very much for listening. We appreciate you all. And I will leave you with the inspirational quote of the week. Conceive, believe, achieve. We'll see you next Tuesday. Or probably Sunday. If you would like to support the podcast and get some extra content while you're there, head on over to patreon.com/Severe MMA Podcast and sign up. From the rewatch to the Q&A, we will have loads of content